Welcome, dear listener. You've done enough for today. You've carried the weight of hours and thoughts, and you are safe now. Nothing is asked of you here. Nothing but rest and the quiet comfort of story. Tonight, I'm going to tell you one of Japan's most legendary love stories. The story of Minamoto no Yoshitsune, the tragic samurai hero of Japan, and the woman who loved him beyond the reach of war and time, Shizuka Gozen. Together, they lived and loved in a world where loyalty could be a death sentence, where family could be the cruelest enemy, and where love could cost you everything. Before you settle in, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, and tell me where in the world you're listening from. The world feels a little smaller when we're all connected by love. Let us begin. The year is 1160, and Kyoto holds its breath. Lanterns sway gently in the cold night air, their golden glow casting long shadows on the wooden streets. The scent of pine and incense drifts over the rooftops, a quiet mask over a city trembling beneath the surface. In the palace, courtiers murmur in hushed voices, glances darting like startled birds. Servants move quickly, eyes lowered, as if speed and silence could save them from the storm that gathers. For tonight, the storm has a name: Taira no Kiyomori. The Taira are coming, and with them, the death of an era. In the grand halls of the imperial palace, the Minamoto clan, a proud samurai family of imperial blood, once protectors of the throne, now find themselves betrayed, as power slips from the court's hands into the grasp of their own kin. Minamoto no Yoshitomo, head of the family, stands alone among the crumbling walls of power. A man who has fought too long, lost too much. His face is lined with exhaustion, his eyes heavy with the knowledge of what is coming. His sons are there, small boys with dark, searching eyes. They clutch at their father's sleeves, wide-eyed and silent, as if they can already feel the weight of destiny pressing down. The youngest, barely old enough to speak his name, sits quietly in the corner, watching the scene unfold, too young to understand the meaning, but not too young to feel the fear. And then, the silence shatters. The Taira flood the palace like a tide of black ink, blades flashing in the lantern light, banners snapping in the cold wind. The air fills with the sound of steel meeting flesh, the sharp, bright cries of the dying, the desperate clatter of sandals on stone as the Minamoto try to flee. But there is no escape. One by one, the sons of Yoshitomo fall, cut down as their father watches, powerless. Their blood stains the tatami mats, the walls, the very air. Yoshitomo himself is struck down, his body crumpling beneath the weight of defeat. The legacy of the Minamoto, crushed beneath the boots of the Taira. And yet, not all is lost. In the chaos, a single child is spirited away, carried through the darkness by trembling hands. He is small, fragile, a boy of 5 winters, but he is the last son of the Minamoto. They say the gods must have looked upon him that night, for the blades of the Taira passed him by. He is taken north, far from the bloodied streets of Kyoto, to a hidden place beneath the tall, whispering cedars of Kurama Temple. There, beneath the eyes of silent monks, the boy grows. He learns the way of the sword, the feel of the wind before a strike, the silence of the forest at night. He dreams of the father he never knew, the brothers he never had the chance to love, and the family that was stolen from him. His name is Yoshitsune. And though the world forgets him for a time, a flame smolders quietly in the dark. A flame that will one day set the world ablaze. Years pass, and the winds of war stir once more. Japan, a land of mountains and rivers, of gardens and temples, becomes a battlefield. The old order crumbles beneath the weight of ambition, and a single name echoes across the provinces: Minamoto. The boy from Kurama Temple is now a man. Yoshitsune, the forgotten son of a fallen clan. He is no longer a child hiding in the shadows, but a warrior of rare grace. A figure who moves like smoke across the field, swift and unstoppable. When the call to arms rises, Yoshitsune answers, not with words, but with steel. The Genpei War rages, Minamoto banners clashing against the blood-red crests of the Taira. The land burns beneath their feet, families torn apart, rice fields trampled under war horses. Amidst all the chaos, it is Yoshitsune who shines brightest. At Ichi-no-Tani, he leads a charge down a cliff so steep, even the bravest warriors hesitate. His men, following in awe, watch as Yoshitsune's horse leaps down the sheer rock face. A white flash against the earth. The Taira, caught off guard, break. The tide turns. At another battle called Dan no Ura, he commands the Minamoto fleet in the final, decisive blow. The sea runs red with the blood of the Taira, their banners sinking beneath the waves. Children of the imperial line, women in silk robes, throw themselves into the sea, choosing death over capture. Yoshitsune stands on the deck, wind tearing at his hair, watching the empire shift beneath him. He has become a hero, a legend whispered on the wind. The people love him. They sing his name in ballads, carve it into temple walls. But far to the east, in the rising stronghold of Kamakura, Yoshitsune's elder half-brother watches in silence. Yoritomo, cold, calculating, the man who now leads the Minamoto clan. They were born of the same father, but raised in different worlds. Yoritomo in exile, hardened by survival. Yoshitsune in hiding, shaped by loss, dreaming of redemption. Now Yoritomo is building something new, a government not of emperors or courtiers, but of warriors, a shogunate, a military regime where he alone commands, the first of its kind. And Yoshitsune, with his beauty, his victories, his songs, is loved too deeply by the people. That love is dangerous. That brilliance is a threat. The letters from Kamakura grow colder. Commands sharpen into accusations. What once was brotherly pride curdles into suspicion. Yoritomo cannot allow another star to rise in his sky. Even as Yoshitsune rides victorious through the blood and anguish of war, the seeds of betrayal are sown. The boy who once rose from the ashes will soon become a hunted man. Kyoto, a city reborn from the wreckages of war, breathes in the uneasy peace that follows the chaos. The scent of plum blossoms drifts through temple courtyards, silken sleeves whisper across polished floors, and in the quiet gardens, the sound of a flute lingers on the air. Soft, haunting, almost too delicate to bear. She stands in the pale moonlight, her figure framed by the glow of lanterns, her white robes fluttering like a crane's wings in the breeze. Her name is Shizuka Gozen. She is called a shirabyōshi, a dancer of the imperial court. She is trained in the art of music, poetry, and the subtle language of the fan. Her beauty is striking, eyes dark and steady as midnight, lips curved in a soft, unreadable smile. But there is something more in her gaze, a quiet fire, a knowing beneath the grace. When she moves, the world slows. Her sleeves trail across the tatami, her feet gliding like water over stone. Each step measured, precise. It is the sorrow in her voice as she sings that holds the room captive. Her songs are not just entertainment, they are stories of love, of longing, of warriors who do not return. And in the shadows, Yoshitsune watches. He has returned to Kyoto, a hero, the conquering general, the golden hawk of the Minamoto. The city sings his name, but it is here, in this quiet chamber beneath the flickering lanterns, that his breath catches. Shizuka moves like the wind, sings like the sea. Sorrow lingers in her eyes. Power rests in the tilt of her chin. She is unlike any woman he has known. Softer in presence, stronger in spirit, and unafraid to meet his gaze. To stand in the storm of his presence without flinching. Their first meeting is brief. A glance exchanged as her song fades into the night. But in that moment, something shifts. A thread is woven. Delicate, shimmering, unseen by the world, but strong enough to bind hearts across a battlefield. Yoshitsune does not speak. He is a man of action, of steel and strategy. But as he turns to leave, the faintest smile touches his lips, and Shizuka, lowering her fan, watches him go, her heart beating faster than she dares to admit. Outside, the world prepares for another war. But inside these walls, something gentler begins, something unspoken and dangerous in its own quiet way. The days pass, and Kyoto breathes again, softening beneath the hush of victory. War has left its scars, but in the gardens of the imperial court, there are blossoms once more. Yoshitsune walks the city as a man reborn, no longer the boy hidden in the shadows of Kurama Temple. A hero. The golden hawk of the Minamoto. The people speak his name in reverent tones, bowing as he passes. Children whisper in awe. Old men shake their heads at the grace with which he moves. For all his glory, his heart is restless. It is not the cheers of the crowd that stay with him in the quiet hours of the night, but the memory of her. The way her sleeves floated like drifting clouds, the sorrow that lingered in her song, the eyes that held forgotten stories. Shizuka Gozen. Their paths cross again, as if by fate, in the gardens behind the court. A place where the wind sighs through bamboo groves and koi drift in still ponds. She sits beneath a cherry tree, her fan resting in her lap, her gaze distant. Yoshitsune approaches, his footsteps soft against the gravel. A warrior humbled by the quiet strength of a dancer. He does not speak. He stands beside her, watching petals fall in slow spirals. As she turns, their eyes meet, and the world seems to hush. The city sounds begin to fade. Only the rustle of leaves remains, the scent of cherry blossoms, and the silent gravity between them. They speak little. A question asked, a memory shared. She tells him of dancing for men who saw only her beauty, of singing for the ancestors when no one else listened. He listens, fully, and slowly, like the first bloom of spring, their love begins. Together, they move between worlds, his of steel and strategy, hers of music and silk. And in the spaces where those worlds touch, they find each other. But even in those moments of stolen joy, there is an ache beneath the sweetness. For they both know the world outside their garden is not safe. Yoshitsune is a hero, yes, but heroes make enemies. His victories have won him the love of the people, but also the bitter jealousy of those who wield power in quiet, ruthless ways. And in Kamakura, his half-brother Yoritomo watches. He reads the reports, he hears the whispers. His brother grows too beloved, too admired. A hero, but also a threat. The storm is gathering, even as they bloom. And somewhere in her heart, as Yoshitsune traces the curve of her cheek with calloused fingers, Shizuka knows. This love, like all things too beautiful, cannot last forever. A samurai and a dancer, destined to dance on the sharp blade of life and death. In Kamakura's fortress halls, the air carries a sharper edge. The sea wind cuts through stone corridors, thick with salt and iron. Power here is not soft or ornamental. It is worn like armor. At its center sits Minamoto no Yoritomo, the man who now calls himself Shogun. His expression is unreadable, his eyes cool and relentless. He sees not beauty or feeling, only the structure of power. What must be kept, what must be broken. The reports arrive without fail, parchments bearing the seals of spies. Each one speaks of Yoshitsune, his younger half-brother, the Golden Hawk, the celebrated warrior riding through Kyoto to the sound of cheers. His fame spreads quickly, his image brightening in the minds of those who speak his name. Yoritomo's fingers tighten around the scrolls. He reads of lords, poets, and soldiers turning toward his brother. Praise grows, allegiances shift. A bitter truth takes root. Only one man can lead the Minamoto. Jealousy begins to stir, slow and corrosive. In the quiet of his chamber, Yoritomo hears it whisper, "Your brother is no longer just a hero. He is a rival. They speak his name more than yours. If you hesitate, he will rise, and you will fall." Whatever fondness once lived in memory begins to erode. The boy from Kurama fades. What remains is a threat with too much light. The response is measured. A letter, formal and cold. "Come to Kamakura. Explain yourself." An invitation by name. A warning in truth. Yoshitsune reads it in silence. Loyalty binds him. Blood obliges him. Still, a chill curls at the edges of his mind. Shizuka sees the weight behind his eyes. As they sit beneath the lanterns, her hand finds his. Her voice is low. "Be careful." He does not speak. A man of honor carries silence like a sword. In Kyoto, the cherry blossoms begin to fall. In Kamakura, a blade is being drawn. Torn between loyalty and love, Yoshitsune does not sleep. The message lies beside him, unopened, but its meaning is already carved into him. He knows what Yoritomo demands, and what it will cost. Outside, the city is beginning to stir. But inside these walls, time holds still. Shizuka watches him from the doorway. She says nothing. She doesn't need to. The weight in the room speaks louder than words. Her hand finds his, a silent offering. "We could leave," she says. He smiles, faintly, not in mockery, in longing. But they both know he won't. He was not raised to run. The blood in his veins ties him to a legacy too vast to slip away from. His victories, his glory, they are threads in a larger web, one spun by others, tightened by duty. She does not cry. She has never been that kind of woman. But when he finally stands, she grips his hand a moment longer than needed. And when he lets go, something wordless breaks. There is no storm, no falling petals, no wind whispering secrets, only the quiet sound of a door sliding shut, and the echo of a choice made. The world Yoshitsune and Shizuka have built begins to crumble. Word comes from Kamakura like the cold bite of winter. Yoritomo's patience has ended. His messengers arrive not as envoys but as hunters. They move through Kyoto with quiet precision. Black-robed, faces impassive, their orders sealed and final. They do not come for Yoshitsune. Not yet. They come for her. Shizuka is taken from the garden where she once sang, where not so long ago Yoshitsune would pause in his restless pacing just to watch her. He would stand beneath the wooden eaves, arms crossed, the weight of war forgotten for a breath, as her voice rose like mist over the still pond, as her hands traced unseen patterns in the air. In those moments, there was no exile, no betrayal, only the fragile beauty they had carved from a world at war. Now, that garden is empty. The gravel path marked by her passing, her white sleeves trailing through the frost. Her hands are bound not with rope, but with the weight of her love for the man the world has marked for death. She does not struggle. She does not cry out. There is dignity in her silence, a strength that burns brighter than any sword. As they lead her away, her eyes lift to the sky, to the pale curve of the moon they once watched together, to the blossoms drifting on the wind. And in that stillness, she sends a prayer, soft, wordless, carried into the night. Yoshitsune hears the news in fragments, a voice at the door, a breathless whisper, and when he understands they have taken his love, it is as if his spirit is cut from him, leaving him hollow beneath the weight of the sky. He remembers the way her laughter softened the harsh lines of his thoughts, the way she would kneel beside him as he cleaned his blade, her fingers brushing the hilt as if to remind him he was more than a samurai, the way she would hum when the storm winds howled outside their fragile refuge. He stands frozen, the room spinning around him, teacups cold, the ink on his scroll still wet, the world he fought for slipping through his fingers. He rides that night, rides through the narrow streets of Kyoto, the hooves of his horse striking sparks on the stone. He searches the alleys, the markets, the temples, but she is gone, taken south, to Kamakura, to his brother's court, to the heart of the storm. Shizuka, the woman who danced in the moonlight, who sang of love and sorrow, who now carries his child, now stands before Yoritomo's throne. She is made to perform, forced to sing for the man who sent soldiers to destroy all she loved. Her voice is steady, but her hands tremble, her song, a lament for a love the world would tear apart, but also a promise that her heart will never betray him, no matter how they break her. And when her child is born, Yoshitsune's son, the last ember of their bond, he is taken. He is seen as a threat, as the future, and because of that, Yorimoto eliminates him, his own flesh and blood. The light in Shizuka's eyes fades, though her body remains. Far to the north, Yoshitsune stands beneath the falling snow, the weight of her absence pressing into his chest like a blade. His love for Shizuka was strong, but his hands were tied by politics, betrayal, and the cold reality of power. He was a hunted and wanted man. He could never make it to Kamakura alive. He could not save her, just as he could not save himself. He knew his time was running out, and he softly admitted to himself the bitter truth. This is not a story that ends in reunion. This is a love that must burn quietly, painfully, and eternal as the world turns to ash around it, and that the last fragment of family he had left has betrayed him and stole from him the only love he ever knew. Far to the north, the snow falls heavier with each passing day. The world lies silent beneath its weight, as if nature itself mourns what has been lost. Yoshitsune stands beneath the bare branches, the cold seeping through his armor, the silence pressing into his bones. He thinks of her, of Shizuka's voice, soft as falling petals, of her hands that once smoothed the worry from his brow. He thinks of the garden where she danced, of the quiet nights when they spoke of a future neither dared to believe in. That future has turned to ash. The storm has claimed it, as it has claimed her. Messages come from the south, bitter as the wind. Yoritomo's court has made its decision. The child, his son, the last ember of their love, is gone. No name given, no grave he will ever find. Yoshitsune closes his eyes, the snow melting on his lashes. The blade at his side feels heavier than it ever has. He wonders if it is the sword or the sorrow that weighs him down. Shizuka, far away, fades from the world's view. No song now, no dance, no voice left to defy the men who silenced her. What remains of her walks through the halls of Kamakura like a shadow, her heart left behind in that snowy north. Yoshitsune rides once more, though he knows no path leads to peace. The mountains rise before him, cold and merciless, as the storm gathers strength. The hunter has become the hunted, but he carries on, because to stop would be to surrender, and a samurai's spirit does not yield, even when all is lost. And so, beneath the weight of snow and sorrow, Yoshitsune vanishes into the white, a warrior chasing a ghost, a man carrying a love the world could not break, though it tried with all its might. The mountains close around him, their peaks veiled in snow and mist. Yoshitsune finds refuge at last, a quiet temple hidden deep in the north, its wooden beams creaking beneath the weight of ice. Here, for a time, the storm cannot touch him. Here, for a time, he is only a man, weary from a life of battle, a heart worn thin by loss. At his side rides a small band, the last of those who would not abandon him, warriors who could have chosen safety but stayed on the harder path, following the samurai through treacherous wilds, through snow and hunger, through the shadow of Yoritomo's reach. Together they cross mountain passes where the wind cuts like a blade. Together they sleep beneath the trees. Together they outrun the hunter who would see them all fall. The monks offer them shelter. His few loyal men build small fires, mend their torn garments, speak in low voices of home, of warmth, of peace they will never know. Yoshitsune says little. He stands beneath the bare trees, watching the snow fall, listening for a voice he knows will not come. The voice of Shizuka, carried by the wind, lost in the silence. But peace cannot last. Word spreads. Yoritomo's shadow reaches even these distant hills. Soldiers come, led not by strangers, but by those Yoshitsune once called allies. Betrayal closes in, as sure as the winter itself. Yoshitsune knows the end has come. He draws his blade one last time, not to fight for victory, but to honor the spirit that carried him this far. His men fall around him, loyal to the last breath, their courage shining like the brief winter sun. And when the temple is silent once more, when the snow drinks the blood of heroes, Yoshitsune kneels in the cold and takes his own life by seppuku, the final act of a samurai, choosing death with honor over chains. His steel answers betrayal, and the storm bears witness to his courage. Far to the south, Shizuka's heart aches, though no messenger brings her the news. She feels it in the quiet, in the cold that does not lift. A love ended not by choice, but by the will of a world that could not bear its light. Far from the laughter of courts and the weight of thrones, Shizuka Gozen sits alone. Her white robes pool around her, her hair unbound, dark as the storm that has taken everything from her. The child, gone. Her beloved, gone. The songs she once sang, of loyalty, of love, of a warrior's courage, catch in her throat now, tangled in grief, too deep for words. They say she does not weep, not openly, that her tears fall in the silence, hidden behind the still mask of a woman who has learned too well how to carry sorrow. She drifts through the streets of Kyoto like a ghost, her steps light, her eyes distant, her voice a soft, broken thread in the air. Sometimes in the shadowed corners of tea houses, she sings, not for coin, not for fame, but for the memory of him. Her voice, once strong enough to command a room, now trembles like a leaf in the wind. The melodies fall like petals, gentle, ephemeral, and those who hear them feel the weight of something they cannot name. In the years to come, Shizuka becomes a figure of legend, the woman who loved a man too bright for his time. Her story is whispered in the halls of courtiers, sung in the shadowed theaters of Kyoto, carried on the wind across rice fields and rivers. She is no longer just a woman. She is a song. But in the quiet hours, when the lanterns burn low and the city sleeps, Shizuka sits alone, her fingers tracing the shape of a name the world could not erase. And in the silence, she gives it to the night. Yoshitsune. The land settles, but it is not peace that follows, only silence. The battles have ended, the banners torn, the bodies buried, the songs of victory fading into memory. The world Yoshitsune fought for, a world of honor, loyalty, and noble warriors, slips away like mist at dawn. In Kamakura, Yoritomo sits on the throne he carved from blood, shogun in name, ruler in truth. His grip tightens on the provinces, but the people do not sing his name in the streets. His victories are not woven into poems or whispered by monks on mountain paths. It is Yoshitsune they remember, the warrior who defied his fate, the man who dared to soar and was struck down. And it is Shizuka's song that lingers, soft and aching, a thread of sorrow woven through the heart of the nation. The dream of a world shaped by love and honor dies quietly. The age hardens. The shogunate rises like an iron wall, the poetry of sacrifice buried beneath the weight of power. And despite all who tried to erase them, their story endures. Not in official records, not carved into stone, but in the hearts of the people, in ballads sung by wandering monks, in the tales told by old voices to young ears, in the haunting lines of a No play, where a dancer in white moves with slow, graceful steps, her sleeves like wings of a bird long vanished. They become woven into history, legends. They speak of the samurai who would not bow to power, and of the young dancer who loved him even as the world tore them apart, of the child they lost, of the love that burned so bright it seared the edge of history. And when the moon is high and the air is still, some say you can almost hear it. A soft melody carried on the night breeze. The echo of Shizuka's voice, calling the name she would never forget. And so, dear listener, the story fades into the quiet once more. The warriors have laid down their swords. The courtly songs have drifted away on the wind. The petals have fallen, and the world has turned. But the story remains. A tale of a man who dared to burn too brightly. Of a woman who loved with a heart so fierce the world could not contain her. Of loyalty and betrayal. Of beauty and of loss. Yoshitsune and Shizuka. Two names carried through the centuries, whispered in poems, sung in quiet voices beneath the moon. Their love was too fragile for the world they lived in. But isn't that the way of the most beautiful things? So let this story rest with you tonight. Soft as the rustle of silk, quiet as the breath of wind through pine. And if you listen, somewhere in your dreams, you may still hear it. The faint sound of a flute, the soft echo of names spoken long ago. And perhaps, just for a moment, you'll feel the ache of a love that once was, and never truly left.